I mean, it's astonishing, isn't it, to think it's going to cost over £100 for most people to fill up their car. How high does the government expect fuel prices to go?
Well, the situation is difficult for many people, and of course it's all a consequence of the war in Ukraine. And again, we don't know how the shockwaves of that war will continue to affect the energy market and the price of petrol for people who are hard-pressed and filling up their cars. But we have taken action to try to deal with this situation. The Chancellor's reduced fuel duty. And, of course, we keep under review all the measures necessary in order to help people with the cost of living.
But that 5p fuel duty, and as back in March, has been wiped out. It was wiped out almost within the week, actually, by the increasing prices. Could the Chancellor cut it further?
Well, we always keep things under review, but one of the things we do want to make sure is that that cut in fuel duty is being passed on to the consumer. So one of the things that we do need to do is to make sure that on every forecourt, that every outlet is making sure that it doesn't take advantage of this situation to build up excess profits. Well, I think we do need to keep a watch on this, and I know that the Competition and Markets Authority and others will always keep an eagle eye in order to ensure that we don't have a situation where companies are taking unfair advantage of consumers.
Supermarkets, some putting up prices by as much as 5p a day. Is there nothing the government can do to stop that?
Well, as I say, it is important that we look at the behaviour of individual retailers, supermarkets and others, and see what the pattern of evidence leads us to conclude. But I think it's also important that we do all recognise that the ultimate cause of the increase in oil prices, the increase in energy costs overall, is war in Ukraine. It's a devastating conflict, but we do need to make sure that Russia does not profit from its aggression.
But what about the fuel companies themselves? Should they be taking lower profits, do you think? Are there any in particular that you've got your eye on?
Well, again, you know, the Chancellor has been clear with the energy levy that he's introduced that those companies that are making huge windfall profits will pay their way into helping people with the cost of living challenges that we all face at the moment. Nobody likes increasing taxes, but the Chancellor is vigilant and on the side of those people who are struggling most at this time.
But what about the supermarkets? What about the people delivering the fuel? Could they not? Should the profits that they are making not be targeted as well? Well,
as I mentioned earlier, there are government agencies that are in a position to monitor what's happening. Again, I don't want to single anyone out because these are tough times for companies as well as individuals. But if it is the case that we do have companies that are behaving in a way which is anti-competitive, if we have companies that are taking advantage of this crisis in order to generate profits that are excessive and unwarranted because they're behaving in an anti-competitive fashion, then we can take action.
OK. Let's move on to the plans that we're expecting the Prime Minister to announce today. It's about right to buy, isn't it? It's about helping people who are on housing benefit buy their homes. This was an idea, of course, that was pioneered by Margaret Thatcher that she later said she regretted and has been derided by a lot of people. Why is the Prime Minister announcing it and why now? I
think the only people who are deriding it are people who, in many cases themselves, own their own homes and don't want to see the prize of home ownership extended.
I think the criticism of it was that when these social houses were passed over into more people's ownership, they weren't replaced. And so, therefore, there wasn't the social housing to help those coming up behind who needed it.
That is a fair point. And one of the things that we will be doing is making sure that there is a replacement, a like-for-like, one-for-one replacement.
How long would that take, though? Because, of course, we all know that developers are sitting on loads of land.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to get social housing built, and a lot of social housing is built as a one or two flats in a big private development.
Well, we're taking steps. Yesterday, I introduced legislation into the House of Commons that means that there will be a new levy on developers. That means that when new developments occur, when new homes are built for sale by the big housing companies, we will extract some of the money that they make. When planning permission is granted, the value of land increases, we'll take that money out, and some of that money will be set aside explicitly to make sure that there is more affordable housing, more council housing for people who need it.
But how can you say this is going to happen within a set time frame? I mean, you know, if a council sells 20 houses today to tenants, they're not going to have 20 new houses tomorrow for the next lot of tenants, are they? It's going to take years.
Well, the way in which the levy works means that people can be assured that when planning permission is granted for new development, that there will be money in due course.
But it's a long-term thing, isn't
it? Councils can borrow against that in order to invest. the truth with housing is that we need more homes of all kinds. We need them in the right places. We need them to be high quality. We need them to be beautiful. We need there to be appropriate infrastructure alongside that. But one of the ways in which we can do that, as our legislation that we introduced yesterday demonstrates, is by having a planning system that is sensitive but also welcomes the right development.
In terms of the money, though, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that you can't get means-tested benefits if you have savings of £16,000. Anybody who wants to buy a home, and unless they're getting an 100% mortgage, needs some kind of deposit. If you've got £15,000, say £14,999, so you don't go over that cap. That's a tiny deposit for any house. There are no homes in the UK that you can get for £100,000, especially in London, of course. How on earth is the government going to square this financial circle?
There are properties outside London that you can, but you are quite right that one of the challenges, and there are two. One is making sure that we have more new homes. The other one is making sure that people have access to mortgage finance. And one of the things that we're looking at is a way in which people can save explicitly for home ownership, and that those savings can be disregarded or set aside for the purposes of people receiving the benefits to which they are entitled. So we're looking specifically at a savings vehicle that people can use in order to make sure that they can save for that deposit. Because home ownership is not just good for individuals, it's good for society overall. We want people to have a stake in the future. We want people to be able to invest in their own home. We want people to have somewhere safe and secure, warm and decent in which they can raise their children.
But if people are on means-tested benefit, and just look at the fuel prices today,
yes,
the cost of food as a result of the Ukraine crisis, most people who are on means-tested benefits are worried about getting through to the end of the week or to the end of the month. They're not going to be able to put aside money. It's a pipe dream for most people that they can possibly save as much as £10,000 for it.
Well, you are right that times are tough at the moment, and you're also right that the number of people who can aspire to home ownership has been reducing over time. That's why we're taking action, and this action is intended to ensure that once we weather the particular economic difficulties that we face at the moment, that we can ensure that people are back on the path to home ownership. It's absolutely vital that we reverse the decline in home ownership that we've seen over recent years.
Isn't there also the issue, though, that if you do sell homes to people at a reduced price, because that is also part of it, that it will make it easier for people on low incomes to buy them, the cost of replacing that property is more than the cost of selling it. There was a pilot scheme in the Midlands back in 2018. Authorities there said they'd replace one for one. The average sale price was £137,000, but to build a new house to replace that was £280,000. So this costs an absolute fortune for the government. If you're going to be, spending £100,000 to replace each house, that's a huge amount of money. Where will that come from? Is this new money?
It will come from the overall parcel, the overall envelope of government spending at the moment. We expect that we will cap the number of people who will be able to benefit from this initially, and then it will grow over time. But it's important that government does invest in bricks and mortar.
What's
and one of the
cap?
things that my department does already is to spend hundreds of millions of pounds in making sure that we can assemble the land necessary to build more homes, particularly in urban areas, because there is a pressing need when we have so many people on waiting lists, so many people in temporary accommodation, to see more homes built, and that means more social homes as well as more homes to own.
What will the cap be of people who can do it?
Well, we're thinking at the moment about exactly how many can benefit each year, and that's something that I'll be discussing with housing associations because, again, of course, we have the resources to be able to fund a programme of this kind, but we want to make sure that housing associations come with us and they recognise that their balance sheets are going to be robust in the event of
but you must have a ballpark
offering more
figure.
homes.
If you're costing it.
We have costed it, but again, I don't want to get into speculation about the exact number.
Are we talking, 100 people, 1,000 people, a million people?
More than that. But again, one of the things that I know is that once you get involved in a property auction like this, you never know where the numbers are going to be. So I won't get involved in speculating at this stage about the exact numbers.
Because the problem is when you don't talk about the exact numbers, it leads people to say, well, hang on, if we don't know exactly how many people it is, this could be, half a dozen people. It's a very catchy policy which the government is rolling out in a week which has been a really tough week for the government. And some would say, oh, it's interesting timing that this has been popped out this week.
Well, it's part of a package of housing policy on which we've been working for months now, and as well as the extending the right to buy to housing association tenants, it's also the case that we're overhauling the planning system. It's also the case, as I say, that we have a new infrastructure levy that ensures that we can get more money from developers. It's also the case that yesterday we announced new powers for the social housing regulator to make sure that social homes are decent. There is a big range of policies that the government is bringing forward in order to make sure that people can own their own home, and that for those who are renting, that there is appropriate protection as well. So this has been in the pipeline for some time, and it is part of the suite of policies that the government is bringing forward to show that we're on your side at a time of economic difficulty.
Let's move away from housing to the situation with asylum seekers in Rwanda. There was a plane due to take a number of people out next week. There have been a number of protests about it, and it looks like the Home Secretary's plan is going to face a legal challenge. Do you think this is a realistic way of stopping this? Do you think that this plane next week will actually go?
Yes, I do. And the Home Secretary was clear. She always anticipated, we always anticipated, that there would be legal challenges. There are some well-funded law firms that, understandably, from their point of view, want to test this policy, but we believe that it is the right policy. We've secured a cooperation agreement with Rwanda, which means that we will be in a position to support that country and also support them as they accept asylum seekers who come here. It's absolutely vital that we take steps to break the business model of people smugglers who are trading in human misery. What we want is a robust but also fair policy on immigration.
So you're not worried?
No, and I think it's also fair to say that at the same time as we're dealing with the problem of people smuggling and illegality in our migration system, we're also showing generosity. The British people are showing generosity towards people from Ukraine. My department has been responsible for working with the Home Office, and as a result, we have more than 60,000 people who've come from Ukraine in the last few weeks and months to the UK. And I think that the British people want to see our borders protected, tough and robust laws enforced, but at the same time generosity extended to those people who are in genuine suffering.
Generosity, compassion, open-mindedness, all things that we would like to be known for in the UK. We've got a film about the daughter of the Prophet Muhammad, which has been pulled from a number of UK cinemas. We spoke to Sajid Javid yesterday. He said he was very concerned about growing cancel culture. Do you agree with him over this?
I always agree with the Health Secretary.
On everything?
I can't think of anything in which I disagree with Sajid about. Possibly he supports a different football team to me, but apart from that, I don't know.
So you get on well with him. What about the leader? How did you vote for him this week? Did you give him your support on Monday? Enthusiastically,
yes. I think that it's...
Because you've not always been an enthusiastic friend or supporter, have you?
No, I made a mistake in 2016, a misjudgment. If you've been in politics for a little while, as I have been, then, there are always mistakes that you can look back on. But no, I think the Prime Minister is doing a good job.
Really?
Yeah, I've been privileged to work alongside him, when he made sure that the Brexit entanglement, the imbroglio, was broken. I worked alongside him particularly during the COVID crisis. He was very seriously ill, recovered in order to lead the world's most successful vaccination programme and a booster programme that saw us emerge from COVID ahead of other economies. And also, we've been touching on the situation in Ukraine. You don't need to take it from me. Just listen to what Volodymyr Zelensky said when he heard that the Prime Minister had won the confidence vote on Monday. He, an embattled war leader, expressed his delight that Boris, in his own words, one of the strongest allies the Ukrainian people have, had been vindicated in that vote.
So you wouldn't run against him as a potential new leader?
Oh, God, no.
What would you say to the 148 MPs who didn't agree with you? Have you been out rallying for him?
Yes, I can understand why some of my MP colleagues have concerns, and I think it's important that over the course of the next 2 years that we demonstrate that the government is focused on delivering for everyone across the United Kingdom. So, one of the things I think we need to do is to move away from a concentration on some of the Westminster preoccupations towards the people's priorities. And in that sense, what the Prime Minister is saying today in Blackpool about extending home ownership and about helping more people onto the property ladder, that is exactly, I know, a concern that many of my colleagues have. And I hope that, however they voted on Monday, when they look at what the Prime Minister is saying and what this government is doing, that they will feel reassured that we're on track to deliver what we were elected to deliver in 2019.